It's raining a lot here in the mid-Atlantic region. We are supposed to get a 1 to 3 inches of rain starting now. It's actually raining right now, live here in Reisterstown, Maryland, with myself. And it's going to be raining all the way through till about 5 p.m. tomorrow. We are under a flood watch or warning or something for this area. And so, as Tito and the Tarantula just said, it's raining, baby. The song was Back to the House That Love Built. It's from the movie Desperado, which is, by the way, freaking fantastic movie. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. I'm playing it because, I could have played anything today because today is May 4th and it is Free Comic Book Day, which we'll talk about on the show today. It's Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. We'll talk about that today on the show today. So I figured, I could do something like that. I'm going to do my Avengers Endgame spoilers now at the embargo. Well, the embargo is going to be over on Monday, but still, by the time you watch this, it might be Monday. So I'm going to do my spoilers for that. So I was thinking, okay, last week I did the song from Endgame, so I thought maybe I could do a Star Wars thing or Avengers thing for the Free Comic Book Day and stuff like that. I was like, no, tomorrow is Cinco de Mayo, or Sunday. If you're watching it on Sunday, today is Cinco de Mayo, whatever. May 5th is Cinco de Mayo, which is like St. Patrick's Day. The Irish, they treat it okay. It's not a big a deal in Ireland as it is in America. Same with Cinco de Mayo. It's not a big deal in Mexico as it is in America. It's just an excuse for stupid Americans to get blotto. And it's on a Sunday, so it'll be good. So get out and get some tequila, get some Mexican food, some tacos, guacamole, whatever, and enjoy your Mexican delights. This is Dylan Knows, episode 294, Cocaine Shrimp, which we'll talk about that as well. We got a lot of stuff to cover this week. A couple of big movie deaths. Not movie deaths, I should say. A couple of deaths in the movie industry. We're going to talk about a little about that. We're going to talk about a new type of dog, which I just discovered that almost makes me want to go, you know what, maybe we should get a dog. I'll doing as I said, my Endgame spoilers. I was going to try to get MJ Khan on, but he didn't read it or didn't respond to it, and I just said, I'll just do my own thing. Maybe I'll get him on some other time and we'll do our discussions then again. Free Comic Book Day, Star Wars Day. Some interesting animal stories, including a cat that got a loan, a bear in a jacuzzi, and what is the symbiotic relationship between ravens and wolves. And what do we else got? We got another interesting, what do Tasmanian devils, jackrabbits, and koala bears have in common? And you'll be surprised when you find out what. I will be doing my ranking of the 22 MCU movies. I'm not going to say definitive because I can always change my mind. This is just as of today. This is my rankings, and it could change. Obviously, there's going to be one more movie. The Spider-Man Far From Home is now connected to this final phase of the MCU. It's like an epilogue to Endgame. So that'll be in here somewhere. I got to throw that somewhere. But for now, I'll give you my 22. Talk a little bit about bagel beer, which is interesting, to say the least. Something about Fortnite and what Burger King did. Mount Everest makes an appearance here. And then for the first time ever, where are those stories? Two stories about something that I never thought I would talk about. And where are they? Well, I'll find them eventually. It's just pretty interesting. Ooh, Kentucky Derby had a very interesting ending. And we'll get to that other stuff in a second. I just got to see if I can find that. And a pig cafe. Interesting like that. So, but yeah, there is something that two stories about things I never thought I would actually be talking about is going to be on here. So let's get started. Let's get this started. Before I get into the spoilers, let's just talk a little bit about what today was. Today was Free Comic Book Day. I was going to go on a rant this evening if what happened last year happened again this year. I love my comic book store. It's right up the street from me. I love the people who work there. And last year, I was a little disappointed in them. It was their first Free Comic Book Day in their new digs last year. And they had a really good group of people there, creators from Boom Studios were there. So they had a lot of good creators. This was last year. The thing I didn't like about it was they had a limit on how many free comic books you could get. It said you can only get 4 or something like that. And that kind of pissed me off because up until that point, when it was their free comic book day and I went to their old store, they said, take whatever you want, take as many as you want, whatever you want. And so I was a little bit disappointed in that. And it was also on a weird day because my wife and son were camping and my daughter and I were having in the middle of our movie marathon. I said, like, I want to go to free comic book day real quick. So we stopped our marathon, walked up to the comic shop and ran to some people that I knew from my days at Diamond and got the comics and left. And the storm was coming through. And it was okay, but I was kind of disappointed in the fact that they said, you can only have 4. So this year I was expecting totally to go in there and have the same sign up there and just say, okay, that's fine. We'll deal with it. That's the new regular thing. I mean, that's not what I thought Free Comic Book Day was about. Free Comic Book Day was to get as many free comics as you want, to get as many people into your store as you want. But again, I don't own the comic shops, not yet. And so I don't know. I know it costs money to buy the free comic books, but to limit them is kind of but here's the thing though, my store, the reason why I also had that feeling that my store might be doing it again this year was because I was checking a bunch of stuff that was on Facebook today from other shops that were promoting their free comic book day today. And they were showing pictures of their free comic books and a lot of them had signs that said only 4 per person, 5 per person, 2 per person. So I was like, okay, it's going to be the same way at mine. So interesting thing is the whole family went this time because there was no camping. So my wife, my son, my daughter, and I went up. And then one of my daughter's friends, who she had just spent the night with last night, said she wanted to come also. So her and her mom showed up. So we were actually there for about half an hour. They had some other creators there that they didn't have last year. But one of them was the same from last year, but he was a local guy, so that was okay. And we spent about a half hour there, and you could take as many comics as you wanted this time. So they got rid of the limit. And I'm wondering if maybe it's because they had so many left over that like, oh, maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe we just let them take as many as they want. So they went back to that mode. So that was good. It was really crowded, which made me really, really happy as well, because it's good to see that it was working, that people were coming into the store that might not normally come to the store before. There was a line, like not out the door, but it snaked through the whole store. It went from the register and went this way around the table where all the creators were, and then down one of the other comic aisles, and then had to go around this other comic aisle, and then went down that one. And it was just constantly that long. Now, my wife found a book she wanted to get, and it was going to be half price. So she stayed in line for probably about 10, 15 minutes to get up front. I felt bad for the guy, Chuck, who's one of the workers there. He was the only one working the register. I think they only had one register open. I think they only have one register. So he was the only one doing that. So I felt bad for him about that. But it looked good, and it was fine. We got a good stack of books, and my wife bought something, and my daughter's friend, Maddie, I shouldn't have said her name, but her friend bought a bunch as well, bought some stuff as well. So that was good. So it worked, and I'm kind of glad. So hopefully that means that they're going to keep doing the no limit on that. Now, the other interesting thing is we went to the library today, the public library, and they actually had a small little free comic book stand as well. You can only take one, but that's okay. I understand it because they only had like 3 of the free comic books there. But they had little small stacks of it, and they said, and it had to be a child, which is great. I mean, and they were the family friend ones. It was the Marvel one, I think, and 1 or 2 of the other ones. That's Lumberjanes, I think, was in there as well. And so I thought that was kind of cool to see that. And it seemed to be doing pretty good too. I mean, there wasn't a line, but it looked like that people had come in and were getting the free comics. So that was kind of cool. They also were giving away the 25-cent DC comic that came out this week as well. So kind of interesting. But so all in all, a good free comic book day. I was very happy with that. And very happy that my store went back to the old ways. So that's pretty cool there. Today is also May the 4th. May the 4th be with you, which is called Star Wars Day, which is interesting because technically Star Wars Day should be closer like May 25th, which is when the first Star Wars movie actually came out. But because the line May the 4th be with you is close enough to May the 4th that they decide, hey, we'll just make this Star Wars Day. So down the Orioles Stadium, where the Orioles won 3-0 today. It's a final, and we got in before the rain came, so that's good. That was May the 4th be with you at the stadium. They had cosplayers in all the Star Wars costumes going around and doing stuff, and they had giveaways, a BB-8 beanie, and if you got the VIP, you would get a bobblehead of BB-8 and one of the Oriole players, Trey Mancini, which is kind of cool. And they were probably going to do like themed Star Wars stuff and cool things like that. So that's kind of good. And a lot of other stadiums have been doing that as well. So I think it's kind of neat. And because I don't really have any Game of Thrones story, but I need to keep my streak going, the Orioles also do a Game of Thrones night also. Last year, it was like Adam Jones on top of one of the dragons was a bobblehead they were giving away, and they're going to do it again this year. So that's kind of cool. They're also doing a League of Their Own night also, where you're going to get a Rockford Peach hat, which is really neat as well. So May the 4th was good. I saw a lot more May the 4th posts than Free Comic Book Day posts, but it was actually, maybe I shouldn't say it. It was kind of an even keel. I saw a lot of May the 4th stuff, and I saw a lot of Free Comic Book Day stuff, which is good. And then we went to the comic book store. They also had, they have 3 giant-sized TVs mounted on the wall in the store, and they were playing Empire Strikes Back on one of them. The other 2 were just ads for the Baltimore Comic-Con and for Free Comic Book Day. So that was kind of cool. So it was good to see that. But there is a sad part to May the 4th be with you this week. Peter Mayhew, who played Chewbacca in the Star Wars movies, passed away this week. I think it might have been yesterday, possibly, or the 2nd at the latest. It was either one of these. I think it was yesterday he passed away. So he's the 2nd Star Wars actor to die this year. Kenny Baker, who played R2-D2, passed away earlier this year as well. And everybody was doing pictures of Carrie Fisher meeting him at the gates of heaven. And really, one of the best pictures I saw was Star Wars action figures. It had Princess Leia, R2-D2, welcoming Chewbacca to heaven while Han, Luke, and C-3PO were still down on Earth. That was kind of neat stuff. So it's kind of sad that Peter Mayhew passed away, but he was old. And, he was really, really tall, and it might have been an actual, might not, maybe a form of gigantism, maybe that might have caused him some pain, I've heard. I don't know if I'm not, don't quote me on that. I don't know, but I think he wasn't fully happy with his size. I mean, the pain and stuff like that came with it. So I don't know. So good on that. So let's see what I want to do next. Do I want to jump into Avengers? No, you know what else? You know what else today was also? I'll talk about this too, because I was just going to mention it, but then we actually watched the end of it, and it was history was made at the Kentucky Derby this year. I don't remember the horses' names, so I'm just going to go with what we saw on TV. So apparently, when we went out to dinner today, and we sat down at our usual restaurant we go to, they had the Derby on, and it had just ended, and they were re-showing the race. And apparently it was being reviewed because there apparently was some physical contact in the middle of the race. And they had to determine if the horse that ultimately won, not ultimately, that was declared the winner at that time, interfered with another horse, which would have stopped him from possibly winning the race. And so they had to review that. So they were going over and over again, stuff like that. And in the end, they determined that there was intent to stop the horse, to interfere with the other horse. So the winner was disqualified. I think that was the first time ever that the winner was disqualified in the Kentucky Derby. And they awarded the winning spot to the number 2 horse, which also happened to be a 65-1 long shot to win. And I think I saw that if you had picked him to win, I think it was like $3,000 you would have won. And if you would have gotten all 4 of them in a row, it was like $51,000 you would have won because of the odds. So I'm not up on my odds thing, but it was kind of interesting. So that was kind of interesting because you figure that the Kentucky Derby this year, I hadn't heard really anything about it. I didn't even know who the horses were. The one thing I did know was the one favorite that was supposed to win the Kentucky Derby was scratched on Friday, I think, because it got injured. And it was also a messy Kentucky Derby. It had a lot of rain hit Kentucky earlier, so it was a mudder race. And so it didn't seem like it was going to be a big deal, because last year we had the second Triple Crown winner in like 5 years. So we've had two within the last 5 years. So it's not as interesting anymore, because up until 5 years ago, when the first one hit, we hadn't had one since the 70s. And then that was like when this one was like, okay, that's kind of cool. And then a few years later it passed, and then, oh, we have a second one. So it's sort of similar to like the Boston Red Sox. And the Boston Red Sox first won the World Series the first time ever in like 100 years of being in baseball. It was kind of cool. And then, 2 or 3 years later, they won again. It's like, oh, okay. And then they win again and again. Now they have like 4 championships or something like that. So it's just like, oh, the Red Sox are in the World Series again. Oh, yeah. And then the Cubs end up winning theirs a couple years ago too. So now they haven't come back and won yet in a while. So maybe their time is coming soon. But no one was really that. I hadn't really heard a lot about the Derby. There wasn't really a lot discussions on my radio show that I listened to, the sports radio show. They weren't really discussing it too much. So I was just sort of like, okay. I didn't really know about it. It's like, I'll just read about it on Twitter or something like that to see who the winner is. And then we just so happened to be lucky enough that we saw the final and the disqualification, and then we actually saw the winner get crowned and the whole thing. It's got to be maddening. And so it's probably going to bleed through to the Preakness, which is in 3 weeks. So I guess it would be the 19th, I suppose. There's 2 weeks. There's 3 weeks in between. It's 2 weeks, I think, in between. So it's the Preakness is, I think, the 19th, 18th, maybe 18th or 19th. Let's see, today is the 4th. So 14 days would be the 18th. So yeah, the 18th, I think, is the Preakness, which is the one that takes place in Baltimore. So, and we'll see, is the first winner that was disqualified, will they run again and maybe get a chance to win this one? Or are they going to be like, you know what, screw them, they screwed us, so we're not going to screw them and we're not going to do it? And is a 65-1 shot they're even going to have a chance of winning the Preakness? So is there even going to be the chance for a Triple Crown winner? Obviously there is. If the Derby winner is going to be at the Preakness, there's always a possibility that the horse could win. But a 65-1 shot winning again in the Preakness, obviously maybe his odds would be a little bit lower since he won the Derby, but I don't know. But horse racing is one of those things like boxing, which were big sports back in the old days, like in the 30s and 40s. But then, with the advent of baseball and football and basketball and hockey and all that stuff, that's sort of they're becoming the big sports now. And then these lesser like ones like horse racing and boxing are still not as huge as they used to be. I mean, boxing's still pretty good. You still make good money on pay-per-views and stuff like that. But now it's like MMA stuff and stuff like that makes some more money. Shogun fights and so on and so forth like that. So we'll see. I think I'm going to hit a few more of these stories before I get into a little Avengers Endgame. So I'm going to give the people who still haven't seen it in a while a little bit of a berth. So maybe the next 10 minutes, I'll just talk a little bit about some of these other stories, and then I'll hit some of this Endgame stuff, because there's a lot of stuff to talk about Endgame. A cat accidentally clicked submit on a grant proposal that his owner was contemplating while she was walking the dog. And the woman ended up getting the grant. She was contemplating like, should I do this? Should I get it? And the cat accidentally jumped up on the computer and clicked the mouse so that it would submit it. And they awarded her the grant. She's like, oh, well, all right then. So that's kind of an interesting story. Here's another accidentally. A man accidentally swallowed his Apple AirPods and found out that they still work even after it went through his system, which meant that he ended up pooping them out. And then obviously he probably cleaned them and disinfected them and discovered, oh my goodness, they actually still work. So the Apple AirPods actually survived a journey through this person's stomach and bowels. Didn't think you'd be hearing those words today, did you? Interesting. Scientists invent a bracelet that gives you an electric shock every time you curse. So this big joke is, we'd be electrocuted because of how many times we fucking curse. Sorry, I had to say it. I shouldn't have said it. It's 9:51. It's still considered children time, and who knows when you're going to see this. Burger King to release Happy Meals because, hey, everyone's not always happy. It's not like anything depressing or anything in the unhappy meals, but they're just going to call them unhappy meals. I think McDonald's does the happy meals, and they're just sort of saying, we're going to do unhappy meals. Ha ha ha. So clever, I suppose. This is kind of interesting. A woman who is anti-selfie came up with a really interesting way of taking a kind of selfie. She pretends to be dead at famous landmarks. Like a good example is she has someone take a picture of her lying face down in the grass with the Eiffel Tower in the background. Or she's lying face down on the stone sidewalk leading up to the Parthenon. Or she's lying face down or hanging over a bush or in a tree or something like that by the Grand Canyon, which, considering there's been a number of deaths there, that might not be so funny, but I think these pictures were taken before those deaths happened. But so she would go to a national landmark, and instead of taking, hey, here I am at the Washington Monument, click, she'd have a picture of her, like maybe a good one she should do is she'll hold her breath, obviously, but put her head in the reflecting pool at the Washington Monument. So it looks like she's drowning, or she had been drowned by the Washington Monument. So I think that's kind of clever. As long as she's safe about doing it, they're funny pictures. Pokemon is going to release Beanie Baby-like plushes of all their Pokemon, which is great because a lot of these pocket monsters are absolutely adorable, and to see them in Beanie Baby format should be really interesting. So once I see some, maybe I'll grab some and show them on air. Speaking of Pokemon Go, the Lake Trio are the new raid bosses, but they're regional, so we're only getting Azelf. Caught my first one today. That's great. A soldier, I should add this to the accidental one, accidentally falls into a Hawaiian volcano, 300 feet into a Hawaiian volcano, and survived. He's in the hospital, and he's probably got burns all over his body and stuff like that. And it's 300 feet, so he has some broken bones, but he's still alive, and that's unfathomable to think that is possible. But hey, it did. A couple of animal stories. The cyborgie, which I had never heard of before, and I saw this picture and I was like, I think I want a dog now. It is a Siberian Husky Corgi mix, and it looks like let's see if I can actually find the picture of it. It looks like a Siberian Husky, but in the shape of a Corgi. Let's see if I can. Cyborgie. There we go. There's a picture of one of them. And then let's see, there was, there's a good one. There's a good one right there. And there's a cute one also. So it's a Siberian Husky Corgi mix. And I think they are, they're from what I've read, they are extraordinarily friendly. So they would be bad guard dogs, and they like to play and run and exercise and do all that stuff. They do typical stuff, but they're just so adorable. They're so cute that I showed my whole family, so we want one. But I would assume that to get a Siberian Husky Corgi mix is going to cost a lot scratch, because these specialized types of dogs probably cost thousands of dollars, probably. So we're not going to get one, but they're adorable, and we'll keep our eyes out on that. Another great animal story is trail cams and hidden cams are so great. You can see all kinds of really cool stuff. Well, nobody was expecting this in Australia. So hidden camera was stationed near a trail, I guess, and there was a nest. They knew there was an animal nest. They didn't quite know what it was, but it had all the design of a nest. They wanted to maybe get some pictures of whatever animal lived in there, and maybe how they lived, how they came out, just get an idea of their lifestyle. So they got something they weren't expecting on their film. No, it wasn't Bigfoot. They got, so as I said, the camera's on this one nest type thing. It's in like a mound of dirt and there's like a hole and stuff like that. So the first thing to come out was a Tasmanian devil. It's like, okay, cool. There's a Tasmanian devil. That's cool. We found a Tasmanian devil nest. Maybe we'll see babies and stuff like that. We can watch them, how they eat and feed and what they do during the day and stuff like that. It's so cool. Tasmanian devil walks out to do his hunting or whatever. And then they're watching the video and they're just waiting for someone else to come out or something like that. Then they see movement. It's like, oh, what's that? Then a koala bear comes out of the same hole. And they're like, what? So a Tasmanian devil and a koala bear are living together in a nest? Huh. That's kind of interesting. And it's also, well, let's keep an eye on this place, see what happens. And then they were surprised again when there was more movement a little while later, and a jackrabbit came out. And they're like, what the hell is going on? So a Tasmanian devil, a koala bear, and a jackrabbit all live together in a nest hole thing in Australia. It's almost like the Australian animal version of Being Human. For those who don't know what Being Human is, it's a TV show that started in England and came over to America, where a vampire, a werewolf, and a ghost live together in a house trying to live normal life. So here you have a Tasmanian devil, a koala bear, and a jackrabbit all living in the same hole. And it's not different years or different time frames. It's the same night. And so they're all living together in some animal commune or something. So interesting. Another animal story we have, let's talk about cocaine shrimp. Shrimp are being tested positive for cocaine, and no one knows why. And so when we went out to dinner, I saw fried shrimp on the menu. I was like, yeah, I haven't had fried shrimp in a while. Let me test to see if maybe this has cocaine in it. So I told my wife that. She's like, what are you insane? How would you even know what the effects of cocaine are? And then second on that, she said she thought she'd read that it was only in England. So I don't know if it's just in England or not. But there is cocaine shrimp. Shrimp is being tested for cocaine, or cocaine is being discovered in some shrimp, and no one knows how it happened. Man left his garden gate open, and when he comes back, discovers 200 sheep in his backyard. So they either lost their way, or they thought it was kind of cool place to hang out at. Also, a couple, since I'm doing animal stories, a couple in Gatlingsburg went out for like a little, they were on vacation, they went out on a hike or whatever, and they came back and said, okay, let's go relax in the jacuzzi. They go around to the back to go into the jacuzzi, and what's in the jacuzzi but a bear? A bear was in the jacuzzi. Now, the jacuzzi wasn't on, it was just a tub of water, but he was just sitting there like, what are you doing? So I thought that was kind of funny. Continuing my shoes, I was hoping I'd get a shoe story, and I did. Detective Pikachu comes out next week, but to get people excited for that, they are now going to be Pikachu-inspired sneakers out there. So that continues my streak of sneaker stories, and these are actual sneakers. And they actually look pretty cool. They almost look like Vans a little bit. I don't know if they're the ones that are doing it, but I think it looks kind of cool. There's also a pig cafe. We've heard of cat cafes and dog cafes. Well, now there's actually pig cafes where you can have your pet pigs come and run around while you're drinking coffee or eating your bacon. Get it? Pig. Never mind. So that's interesting. A deaf man adopted a deaf rescue dog and taught it sign language. That's a nice little story. A deaf man is able to share something with a dog that's also shares his disability, and it makes them live better, I guess. It's been a while since I've done a Fortnite story, because I don't play Fortnite, but I find it interesting all these things that happen in Fortnite. Like Thanos came out last year, and then there was like in the game, everybody was reporting seeing this strange asteroid flying through the sky, and that's everywhere across the world saw this. And then there's a war started that wasn't started by anybody playing the game. It was started by the people who run Fortnite. So they like to do a little bit of interactiveness with it. Well, apparently the interactiveness is going forward again recently because apparently the Tilted Towers, which is a common landmark in Fortnite, has just been destroyed. So again, it's what makes, I guess, Fortnite interesting and different than most other like RPGs and stuff like that. It's the creators interact and change the scenery and the sets periodically to keep things interesting and have people react differently and see how they're going to do stuff. So I think that's kind of a cool story about that. Let's see, should I just finish all these before I do my? I got a whole page of stuff which I can get to later. So yeah, let's just finish this page up here and then I'll get into the comic stuff. Tomorrow or today or yesterday or whenever you're watching this, May 5th is Cinco de Mayo. And as I talked about earlier, you know, it's more of an American holiday, so people can go out and drink tequila and eat tacos and stuff like that. But guacamole cheese is now available for Cinco de Mayo, and I like guacamole and mixed it with cheese. I don't see what the big deal is, but I mentioned to my wife and she almost vomited, it seemed like. So she doesn't think that sounds very good, but I think it sounds pretty neat and wouldn't mind trying guacamole cheese. So keep an eye out for that. That might be something out there. A couple of studies. One study is study finds a woman, or women, I should say, like their best friends more than their husbands. Yeah, I can maybe see that. I can understand that possibly. So, well, I'm my wife's best friend, so no, just kidding. But you know, it's okay. I mean, your wife still loves you, right? You know, who cares if, you know, she likes her best friend more, likes to spend more time with her best friend. She's still living with you and she's still sleeping with you and still doing stuff with you. She just might like to do, you know, her best friend knows her better than you do maybe, and they can do more girly stuff and that you don't want to do. So I don't know. Another study shows that, and this is the kind of a oh no, this is a different study. And then okay, I was thinking it was this other study. Study says taking a 20-minute walk will actually help you cut your stress. And my wife and I have been doing that lately with our Pokemon Go hunting. You know, I go out after dinner and we walk around the neighborhood and do some stuff around the neighborhood. And it usually takes more than 20 minutes. But that's not a weird study. It makes kind of a little bit of sense. And then the study I was thinking about, there it is. Studies show boys who are close to their moms are less depressed and do better in school. So, I mean, I have a good relationship with my mom, I think, and I think my son really enjoys being around my wife as well, his mom. So it makes sense. And, you know, just in time for Mother's Day. Mother's Day is next weekend also. So that's an interesting little story to talk about. Well, it's another year and another Starbucks specialty drink for the summer. This one is the Pink Dragon drink. Don't know what's in it, but you know, last year was like the zombie one, I think, and then there was like a fairy one or something like that. But now we have a dragon, hot pink dragon drink. So go on up to your Starbucks and say, "Hey, I want a hot pink dragon drink," and they'll get it for you. The Satanic Temple has been recognized by the IRS as a tax-exempted church state, so it is now officially considered a church in the eyes of the IRS, and they are now tax exempt as well. There's a lot of misinformation when it comes to the satanic religion, and I'm not going to get into that, but there's a really good, I follow the Satanic Temple on Twitter because they actually make some interesting points. They get a bad rap due to how Christians see Satan and how people have claimed that they were possessed by Satan to kill people, stuff like that. But their religion is a bit more inclusive than other religions, and they are more about not killing and murdering and stuff like that, but more about having a good time and stuff like that. And being kind to everybody and being more inclusive so that gays and lesbians and women and transgender and people of color and all types of people are allowed into their religion and not just a specific subset of people. I mean, obviously, most people are allowed in any religion, but in a lot of these like evangelical religions, stuff like that, people of color, different sexual orientations than them are sort of not are frowned upon, and so on and so forth like that. I didn't put that in there, but another religious thing is there's a cruise ship that is being quarantined for measles, and apparently it was a Scientology cruise ship. And since I don't think they believe um, in getting shots, that's why everybody on this cruise ship has the measles. So they're being quarantined uh, for now. So I mean, a lot of people are saying, haha, this is, what you get for not believing in vaccinations and stuff like that. But again, even though you might not like some of the religious stuff that they believe in or do, they have every right, as per our Constitution, to have their religion and do their religion any way they want to. And the one thing that pisses me off most about a lot of these other religions is that they force their religion on you. And if you just let people do their own religion and not force your religion on them, then we should all be fine. But that's the problem, is all these people are forcing their religion on other people, and other people are saying we are a one religion country, which is not true at all. That pisses me off more than anything. We are not a one religion country. As per the Constitution, we are freedom of religion. If you want to be a one religion country, go back to England. That's why we left in the first place. Learn your history, you assholes. So you might not like Scientology and what their beliefs are, but a lot of these people are having Schadenfreude about this. They're laughing at them, saying, haha, see, if you would have been vaccinated, you wouldn't have had the measles, which there's something to that. But at the same time, you cannot denigrate another religion, no matter how much you dislike it. Same with Satanic Temple. You don't know about what they do. You just assume from what other people said. Same thing with Muslims. Everybody says there's a few hardcore Muslims out there that kill people, so all Muslims must be bad. And to be honest, it's the total opposite. The Muslim people are one of the more peaceful people out there. And nothing shows that more than when there's been attacks on mosques and on Jewish synagogues. The Muslims and the Jewish communities, they have each other's backs. So they work together as a team because they both believe in their own religion and don't want to force their religion on other people. And their belief is to help other people. And it's great to see. I mean, I don't want to see these stories because that means that there have been attacks on stuff. But when you see a synagogue has been attacked or burned down by stupid ass white supremacist evangelical types who are ignorant morons, the Jewish faith are the first people to jump to their defense and say, hey, dudes and women, you can come use our synagogue for your prayers, man. We'll back out, and we'll protect the outside to make sure nobody tries to come in and bother you guys. And then the flip happens. If there's a synagogue that burns down or something happens in a Jewish synagogue, the Muslims are the first people to go up there and say, we got your back. And they raise money to help rebuild the churches, and they protect the Jewish people going into their synagogue, and they say, hey, if you need to use our facility, you can use your facility for your prayers as well. So we need more of that in this country. So while, it might be fun and easy to make fun of Scientology because of their beliefs and that you don't like them and that they're weird, well, you know what? It's their right. It's freedom of religion, and just pray that they're okay. Florida man. Here's a Florida story for you. A meth-snorting Florida man attacked his mattress in a jealous rage. I guess he thought his mattress was cheating on him, so he attacked his mattress. Okay. Bagel beer. I used to work in a bagel shop, and now it's the new thing now. Beer made with bagels, I guess, or fermented with bagels in them or something. I'm not exactly sure. It seems like different type of bread added to it. So, but there's something now out there called bagel beer. So if you like bagels, you like beer, well, there you go. A couple of deaths here. Local news death, Gino Marchetti, a former Baltimore Colt and also an entrepreneur who created the Gino's restaurant, which is only available really here in Maryland. And I think they have one in Pennsylvania now. It was a really good hamburger stand in the 70s and 80s. I used to go there all the time. And then the Roy Rogers kind of took it over. And then they've reopened Gino's recently back in Maryland again. But Gino Marchetti passed away, or Marchetti, I should say, died. He is in the Hall of Fame, and he was a former Baltimore Colt. Played with Johnny Unitas and so on and so forth. So, and finally, the other big Hollywood death this week. I talked about Peter Mayhew. John Singleton died earlier this week. Director of Boys in the Hood and a number of other movies. A young director, cut down in his prime. He was only like in his late 40s, maybe early 50s. So I think it was a cancer or something that got him. So rest in peace for you, John, and your family. I'm going to tell you one story that happened to me recently, and then we're going to get into Endgame spoilers. So, I've been lucky enough that I've never been laid off before. Every job I've had, I've either quit on my own terms or was fired. But I was fired due to, in their eyes, well, the one place I was fired from, I was not the person they hired. They thought they hired. They thought that they hired some sort of sales customer service guru type. And I never said I was a sales customer guru type. I just said I worked in customer service in my old job before this one. And they expected me to do more than what I actually did. And yeah, I'll give them that. I mean, it got me a chance to get the job that I'm in now, and presently have been in this job now for 12 years. 12 years, end of the month. So, so at this job that I'm the job I've been at for almost 12 years. I'm in the middle of my big project right now, which means I'm off site. I haven't been at my warehouse since last Tuesday. So I've been gone Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So I've been gone for 8 days and haven't been at my my regular place of work for 8 days while I'm working on this big project. That's going really, really well. We're on District 16, which is the halfway point of the job, and I got a really good squad. We are renting out a warehouse in a place called Blind Industries, which is a place where blind people work, and not just blind people, but people who are legally blind can still see a little bit. And also there are people who are not blind who are working there as well, but they make production stuff, and they do notepads, and they do cleaners and gloves and stuff like that. And they also have a sewing department. And until this past Tuesday, they had a fabric cutting department. So I walk into work on Tuesday, this past Tuesday, and everything seems to be going normally. I got my crew working. We're moving right along. We're not really seeing stuff going on. And at about 2:30, they say there's going to be a meeting in the break room around 3 o'clock that the whole company has to go in to see. And I saw some person walking around and talking to people. We need to see you guys in our office at 2:45. So I didn't think much about it because I'm working on my job. I didn't think much about it. So 3 o'clock rolls around. Everybody, that I work with works at Blind. So they get up and they go to this meeting because they have to. So I keep working and I don't hear what's going on. But then I see a few people that I've been seeing around. They're leaving the meeting. And people are saying, "Hey, where are you going?" It's like, "Oh, we've been laid off. We've lost our job." It's like, okay, that's interesting. When the meeting was over, the guys who worked with me came to me and said, "Yeah, they just dissolved the fabric cutting department effective today, and they laid off about 15 people. A lot of them were blind people too." And then one of the people I was working with, who was on my squad, they were fired also. So they gave me a hug and said, "Nice working with you," and left. And so it sort of blindsided everybody. And so I told my boss about what was going on. He contacted the manager and they had a long discussion. And then he told me a little bit about it. But the weird thing was the next day, the fabric cutting department was in the same area that we were in. So I've seen these people since I've been doing this project, and I've been doing this project for years also. I was over here every like once a year over the last 5 years. And that day, the first day after everybody had gotten laid off, not everybody, everybody in the fabric cutting department, um, it was quiet because they usually have machines that are running, people talking, music, stuff like that. It was quiet, and the production stuff was running in the other area of the warehouse because they weren't affected by it. And when they go on break, they turn all the machines off. So when they go on break, we're working because we go on separate breaks than the production staff. It is silent as a tomb in that place for 15 minutes. And then for half an hour at lunchtime, it is silent as a tomb. And then there's nobody around either. And it literally made me feel like what it would have been like if the Thanos snap actually happened and half the universe was gone, because half the people in the department I work at were gone. And it was quiet. And the workers I was working with, they're panicking and stressing and have anxiety because they're saying, what's going to stop them from firing me or laying me off? When this project's over, what's going to happen to them? And I can't think about that too much because it's not really my concern, because once my project is done, I'm going back to my job, which I have and have had for 12 years, and am not in any danger of getting laid off. Nobody at my job, I think, is in danger of being laid off because we are in a real good financial condition, and we have a specific design. What we do, we're a uniform company, so we're always going to have customers and stuff like that, and we keep building customers. So I don't see us getting laid off anytime soon, but it feels weird to hear these people with their anxiety who are still remaining, and for me thinking what's going to happen to them once I leave, and then how it's going to affect next year if we're going to come back here and do this project again next year. I mean, is it going to be, are all these machines that they were using for the fabric, are they going to be gone? Is this going to be a completely empty area, or are they going to move something else over here? I don't know, and I can't give you the answer. I don't know. So it was just kind of a weird week. And thankfully, I think I only got about another week and a half left on it. So I've got another maybe 8 days left of the project. I hope it's less than that, because I really want to get back to my job, because I like my job. I like the people I work with, and I like sitting at my desk and listening to my music and doing my receiving and helping my staff out. Not that the people I work with are great. They're fantastic. They're wonderful people. And I wish I could take all of them over with me to Hanover to help out, because they're all good, but I just can't. And I feel bad for them. And I wonder what the future is going to bring, because my boss John said that the project might be completely different next year. This is before this happened. He said that the company wants to try something different, where they want, instead of it being shipped out by district, they want everything to be shipped out by school. So we're looking at a bunch of, instead of 32 districts, we're looking at like 500 schools or something like that. But the bag and tags are going to be smaller. So who knows? It's still going to probably take 15 days to do, but we'll see. But that was just kind of a weird story. I just felt like sharing with everybody there. All right, so last week I talked about Endgame a little bit, but I couldn't really give a lot of spoilers because everybody's like, don't spoil the Endgame. Well, the Russo brothers, who are the directors, saying that they're going to lift the embargo on spoilers on Monday. That means they hopefully by this weekend, the second weekend that it's been out, that everybody who hadn't seen it last weekend is going to go see it this weekend, so they'll be able to see it. We start talking spoilers. I just want to talk a little bit about the spoilers in a second, but Marvel is doing an Oscar push for them right now, particularly Robert Downey Jr. as Best Actor, and I'm wondering if the Academy is going to look at it sort of like they did with Return of the King, which was the Oscar-winning Lord of the Rings film of the three. But a lot of people think that, because Return of the King really isn't their best one, but a lot of people thought that they were giving it the Oscar because of the entirety of the movie saga, because it's basically one story divided into 3 movies. And so they're wondering if that's going to be like a similar case with Avengers Endgame, is that they're going to look at the MCU as a whole and give it Oscars more more prestigious Oscars instead of just for the special effects, stuff like that. Like Black Panther went a long way for being nominated for Best Picture this year. It was the first superhero movie to ever do that. But now they want to really do a push on Endgame and try to get that to be an Oscar thing. Also, it is going to hit, it probably has hit $2 billion as the quickest to reach $2 billion. It is now number 5 on the list of highest grossing movies of all time. And it is only 0.7 away from surpassing Avatar as the number 1 highest grossing box office of all time. So I think it'll do it, and I think it'll do really well. So what we're going to do is we're going to do just, I'm not going to do another review because I already did my review, but I'm going to talk about some of the things that, remember last week I was saying that it wasn't great. It was good, but it wasn't great, and there was something that was sort of sticking to me about what I didn't like about it. I'm going to talk a little bit about that and some of the other big spoilers that happened and their place in the saga. And then I'm going to give my list of 22 of my MCU movies, my ranking of them, all 22 of them. I'm going to rank those. And then I got another page of stories that we're going to talk about. And then we'll do Check Eye Day and what came out this week, and then we'll be done. So we're looking at probably another hour, maybe, which would put us at about a 2-hour window. So let's go. So Endgame starts off basically where we see how Hawkeye's family disappeared. His wife and all of his children disappeared. And because they disappeared due to the snap, Hawkeye sort of lost his mind a little bit once he learned more about the snap, and he survived. So he took on the persona of a character called Ronin, which was someone that he did in the comics. And he went and was killing people that he thought did not deserve to survive the Thanos snap, including gangsters, murderers, the Yakuza, stuff like that. And he was killing them because he said, how dare these scumbags who kill people and give people drugs and steal, these criminals are still alive in my family, which is, angelic and not evil, have been disappeared, as well as my friends have all disappeared, and they don't deserve to be alive. So he sort of lost his mind a little bit. So he's killing a bunch of people like that. So there's that. And then Captain Marvel shows up. Now, the thing about that is at the end of Captain Marvel, they have the stinger where they're looking at the pager that Fury sent to Captain Marvel. And she appears and says, "Where's Fury?" And that scene was not in Endgame. What I think basically was that was the scene setting up the scene that came next, because after that it was Iron Man. Well, it's sort of, and then it was Iron Man in space with Nebula drifting in the spaceship, and that's where "Hey Mr. Fantasy," which was a song I played last week, came in. And him and Nebula are just sort of bonding over things, but they also know they're probably going to die soon because they're running out of air, water, and food and stuff like that. So Tony, as we saw in the trailers, is sending that message to Pepper about their stuff, and then he's like, well, this is going to be about it. And so he basically passes out, and Nebula puts him in the captain's chair so he can die in the captain's chair. And then she goes off, I guess, to die in her own way, or maybe she's not going to die because she's like half robot. But then Captain Marvel appears and saves them. Now, I think what happened was Captain Marvel lands in that scene from Captain Marvel, and then they told him what was going on and where Tony's last general belief was, and she went out there and found him and brought him back. And Pepper was alive, so Pepper was with them. And so they discover that Thanos has used the stones again, but now they know, they pinpointed where he is. So they get into a spaceship, Captain Marvel's with them, and they fly out to confront him again. And we discover that Thanos has destroyed the stones. That was what that snap was. He said, okay, boom, no more stones. And he destroyed them. And that basically sort of injured him. He was like half scarred here and he's not doing well. So Captain Marvel comes in, beats the crap out of him. And Thor comes in and they all come in and they are trying to get, what did you do? And they told him that he destroyed the stones. There's no way they can use it. And then Thor chops off his head. He said, I went for the head. And that's where that ends. And then a blurb comes up the screen. It says 5 years later. So basically they're saying that the snap still happened. Everybody's still dead and that they've time for the Avengers to move on. And they've all moved on to their own certain ways. It said Hawkeye's now Ronin. He's killing people. Captain America is going to support groups and helping them out through their, their pain, stuff like that. The heroes are still patrolling when they can, and they're reporting in to Natasha, Black Widow, who's sort of like the key, who's sending them off to do stuff. War Machine and Nebula and Rocket and Okoye and Captain Marvel are all reporting to Natasha, telling them what's going on in the world, what they're doing, and she's sending them off to do things. Tony has retired with Pepper, and we discover that he has a daughter, and he's living the life he always wanted, a wife, family, retired, not doing any Iron Man stuff, just enjoying life, being a dad and a husband. And so it all seems bleak and stuff like that. It's shot dark and gray and stuff like that. Then we cut to like a depot in San Francisco where they put old stuff and things that have been abandoned and stuff like that. And we see the van that has the quantum time machine from Ant-Man and the Wasp. And a rat appears and steps on the machine and turns it back on, which releases Scott from the quantum realm. So he's back alive. So he's been trapped in the quantum zone for 5 years. And so he gets out, and to him, we discover it didn't seem like it was 5 years. It seemed like it was only like 30 minutes or something like that. And so he goes out, and he's all confused because he doesn't know what's going on. It's like the whole, what is that, Washington Irving story? The dude who fell asleep and then wakes up like 100 years later with a long beard and his family's all grown up. I can't remember. It'll come to me when I least expect it. So he goes about and he discovers what happened. And he goes to the memorial for all the people who died and discovers that his daughter is still alive. So he finds where she might live. And now his daughter's a grown up, like teenager almost. And so he reunites with her, and then he makes his way to Avengers compound, and they bring him in, and he tells them he has an idea, because, as I said, time works differently in the quantum realm, and there could be a way that they could steal time and maybe go back and stop the snap from happening. So they go to Tony first to help him out, and Tony's like, I'm not going to do it. I'm happy with my life, and it's dangerous to deal with this stuff. It's time to move on, because he's happy with his wife and daughter, And they're like, okay, well, we'll do this without you. And he's like, you go do that. And they disappear, and they find Bruce, who is now Professor Hulk, which is Hulk, but with Bruce Banner's mind. So he can talk and work and stuff like that, but he looks like the Hulk. And he decides that he'll help them try to figure out this time to build a sort of time machine so they can go back in time and stop the stones from getting gathered, and they can maybe gather the stones and bring everybody back. So then they go and they have some failures when it comes to trying to build the time thing. Meanwhile, it's been, ever since their discussion, it's been itching the back of Tony's head, and he just says, I'm just going to do this just for the fun of it. So he starts doing his own little exploration, and he discovers the way to do time travel. So he's sitting there, and he's like, should I tell them, or should I just stay and live with my family and be happy like that? And Pepper's the one that says, you got to do what you got to do, even if it means you got to, leave our family and stuff like that. So Tony goes and tells him how to do it. They get the plan together, and they go back in time to try to get the stones. Now, they split up into different teams. Ant-Man, Captain America, and Iron Man go to 2012 during the battle with Loki and the aliens. and get the stone from the Tesseract and also from Loki's staff. And also at the same time, the Ancient One is protecting the Sanctum Sanctorum from the alien invasion, and she has the Time Stone. So they get all three of them. Well, they technically don't. They get two of them, and one of them gets stolen by Loki, who disappears. Also, Cap has to get the staff from the Hydra shield agents, including Crossbones, and he does the Hail Hydra thing, and they give him the staff, knowing that he'll take care of it. And so he gets that, but then Tony and Cap remember, okay, we need Pym particles to do this, and we also need to know, we know that Tony's dad was working with the Tesseract when he was working for S.H.I.E.L.D. So they go back to 1970 and give Scott the Time Stone, and the Hulk goes with them to get the Time Stone. So it's the Hulk, Ant-Man, Tony, and Cap, because the Hulk talks to the Ancient One about the Time Stone and is able to convince her to give him the Time Stone, and he says, we'll return them to this exact same point, so there's no delineation of the timeline, that they never disappeared. And so the Hulk goes back to the future, Ant-Man goes back to the future with their two stones, and then Tony and Cap go to 1970, where they get more Pym particles, which they need to use to do their time travel stuff, and get the Tesseract from the S.H.I.E.L.D. place. Tony has a conversation with his dad that sort of heals him, because his dad, he never thought his dad really loved him, but they have a really nice discussion, even though he doesn't know who he is, but it helps Tony out. And Cap sees Agent Carter again, and Peggy, and is able to get the Tesseract, and then also get more Pym particles. They can do some more traveling in time if they need to, and they go back to the future. Then we have War Machine and Nebula going to the planet where Peter Quill gets, I guess, the Power Stone from the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy. And they knock out Peter so he doesn't get it. And so they go and they grab the Power Stone first. But unbeknownst to them, now that there are two nebulas in that time frame, the one from the future and the one from 2004, their minds use the same link, and so the 2004 nebula is starting to have some of the current time nebula's memories, and she sees what they're doing and hears they're from the future, and brings that news to Thanos, because all she wants is Thanos to love her, because remember, this 2004, he's still alive also. He hasn't done the snap yet. So he, not 2004, it was 2004, I think, or whenever the timing was, I remember, regardless. So Thanos discovers that he succeeds, but also sees him destroying the stones and getting his head cut off, stuff like that. So, and then he discovers their plan, that they're going to undo everything. So Thanos is like, we can't have that happen. So he gets Nebula to knock out the other Nebula from the future, and then the future Nebula gets interrogated on Thanos' ship with Gamora, who's still there also, 2004 Gamora, and the evil Nebula from 2004, who's still evil, she takes the Pym particles and goes back into the past, so that to the future, so she can open up the gateway for Thanos in 2004 to come in and get all the stones once they get the Avengers, all get them together, and then he'll steal it from them and use it then, instead of, or make sure that it doesn't happen, or maybe take it back to 2004 and use it then, whatever. So they have that. So then you have that, and then you have Thor and Rocket. Now the thing about Thor is they had to get Thor back to do this, so they go to New Asgard, which is where in Thor Ragnarok, Odin said this should be where Asgard is, which is in Norway, and Thor has created New Asgard, and we discover that Valkyrie's there. She's still alive, and his rock buddies and his and Meek from Ragnarok are also still alive, and they're hanging out in the same house as Thor, and they're playing Fortnite and other stuff. But Thor now has turned into the Big Lebowski. He's drunken. He's drank a ton of beer. He's got a giant beer belly. He's got a long, raggedy beard. He's lazy. Doesn't want to do anything because he failed, and everything he's done, he's failed, he's lost everything, and so on and so forth. And so they're able to convince him to come back with them. And so him and Rocket go to Asgard during the Thor the Dark World, where the ether was introduced, and the ether being inside Natalie Portman's Jane Foster character. So they go to Asgard, where Thor is there, and he wants to warn his mom that she's going to die that day, but he can't, and plus he's afraid to approach Jane the way he's looking, and he thinks it's not going to work, so he runs away. So Rocket has to get the ether from Jane, and he does, and they're able to get that back to the future as well. And then finally we have, before all this happened, Black Widow discovered where Hawkeye was and gets him to come back after learning about his family, gets him to come back with them to Avengers headquarters, and the two of them go off to get the Soul Stone. Now, remember how the Soul Stone, you have to, kill somebody, to sacrifice somebody, that you love to get it. Now, they are not in love with each other, like romantically, but they're in love as in best friends. They love each other like that. So they each decide to kill themselves. And that's the sacrifice that will give them the Soul Stone. So the two of them fight to sacrifice themselves, with Natasha eventually being the winner. And Natasha falls to her death, much as Gamora did. So Natasha is dead for good, because we all know if the Soul Stone deaths cannot be redone, even with the Infinity Stones, which is kind of a BS thing, but whatever. So Hawkeye gets the Soul Stone, so he goes back. So now they get the gauntlet, and they put it on the Hulk, because he's the one who can handle it the most. And he does the snap to bring everybody back. And it takes a second, but then did it work? And then Hawkeye gets a call from his wife, who was dead. So it's like, yeah, it did work. And then all of a sudden, Thanos from 2004, because Nebula has gone in and opened up the time portal, comes in with his army and destroys the Avengers compound. And he's brung all of his, the Chitauri and his, his team that he had in Infinity War. They come with him also, and they go and they take out the Avengers and try to get the glove back. And so it's just the remaining heroes right now are trying to, stop this, but they've all been defeated and hurt and stuff like that. But they keep fighting, and Tony's now back, and they're all fighting, and they have a big fight with all of them. And it looks like all is lost when we hear Falcon's voice, and all of a sudden all these Doctor Strange portals open, and all the heroes come in. All of Wakanda shows up. Black Panther's there. Okoye is there. Doctor Strange is there. The Guardians who have died are there. Who else am I missing? Spider-Man returns. And everybody who, Scarlet Witch, who's died from the past, comes, and they have brought their army as well. So there's a big battle going on. Captain Marvel comes down, and she gets involved in the fight as well. And that's one of my issues I had. I'll talk about issues in a second. And they have a big battle, but things don't seem to be going that well. And but then eventually they are able to get the Infinity Gauntlet from Thanos before he does the snap again, and they're able to pass it off to Iron Man, who uses it to destroy Thanos and all the bad guys, much as they did in Infinity War, with them disappearing like that. But him using it has caused massive injuries to Tony. And while Thanos dies as a dust and stuff like that, and Pepper shows up in her armor that Tony made for her, and you have a sequence where all the women heroes, Ant-Man, the Wasp, and Pym and Michelle Pfeiffer show up for the battle as well. And, so all the women have a shot where they're, joined together, like for A-Force, where all the women join together for Avengers and attack. And then Scarlet Witch has a good confrontation with Thanos. But after all that happens, as I said, I'm going backwards and forwards here. They get the Iron Man has done the snap again, and he has destroyed all the bad guys, including Thanos, who disappears like everybody else. But him using it has now killed him, basically. So he has a few moments to apologize and everyone be tearfully sad, and then Tony ends up dying. And so Tony is the other casualty besides Black Widow in this one. So after the battle and the epilogue and all this stuff, now Gamora from 2004, she changes her mind instead of working with Thanos and stays in the present time as well. And good Nebula is back. Good Nebula kills bad Nebula, which is, again, kind of a paradox, but we're going to get in that in a little bit. And all seems right with the world, it seems. So in order to make sure, to go back to the promise that Bruce said to the Ancient One, said, we'll return all the stones to the point where we got them so that they don't remain, that they stay where they are and nothing ever, it doesn't seem like they were gone. Captain America volunteers to go back in time and return all the stones to their proper place where they got them from. So he disappears. And so, okay, for him, it'll be 5, 10, 100 years, whatever. But for us, it's only going to be like a minute or so. So they try to bring him back, but he doesn't appear. And they're like, what's going on? What's happening? Why isn't he coming back? So they think that, they fail. But then they notice someone sitting on a log over there. They go over. It is elderly Captain America, who has his shield with him and a wedding ring on. And apparently he stayed, after he returned all the stones, he stayed back in time. And we think he ended up staying with Peggy and marrying her, and they lived a long, happy life, though he doesn't really say how that happens. He gives the shield to Falcon to become the new Captain America, and it ends with the funeral for Tony. Well, I think the funeral for Tony happens before Cap goes back in time to return all the stones. And we see his daughter, and everybody's taking care of her. Happy's there, promising to take care of her, and everybody else is promising to take care of her. And you see all the Avengers are there, and then Samuel L. Jackson shows up as Nick Fury, so he's there as well. And so then, as I said, you have the Captain America thing, and then he gives the shield to the Falcon, who now becomes the new Captain America. And that's really basically the movie. So that's what you get. There's a few things here and there, some other stuff that I sort of gloss over, but that's the main general idea of the movie. So all in all, I mean, it was an interesting idea, an interesting story, but what got me the most was their version of time travel, the returning of the stones, and the lack of Captain Marvel being used in the movie. Now, the lack of Captain Marvel being in the movie, I mean, after her movie did gangbusters, made $1 billion and hugely popular, and people wanted to see more of her in the Avengers, she is relegated to the beginning and the end. She pops up at the beginning when they kill Thanos for the first time. She shows up at the end for the big battle and has a mano-a-mano with Thanos, and is able to get the gauntlet off of him and able to pass on to Spider-Man and so on and so forth, which is a great scene, but I would have kind of wished that she would have gone and worked more with the Avengers and gone back in time and did all that stuff as well. I kind of understand why they didn't do that, because A, she's so powerful, and B, they wanted to focus more on the original Avengers and Rocket, Nebula, of course. But they were the only two besides all the other regular Avengers that survive. So you need to have someone from the Guardians there. So why not those two? So the lack of Captain Marvel sort of disappointed me a little bit. Then the whole time travel aspect, their version of time travel, they say that you cannot change the past no matter what you do. It'd be like, you could go back in time and destroy all the dinosaurs, before the asteroid does, millions of years before the asteroid destroys dinosaurs. You could kill all the dinosaurs and it wouldn't affect the present day. Instead, when you do that, you create an alternate timeline, and that timeline goes, so you take that timeline to the present where all the dinosaurs were killed millions of years before they were supposed to, and how that timeline has turned out. So in their eyes, that's what their time travel is. So all the stuff that happens when they go back, particularly in 2012, where they run into each other, Captain America fights against Captain America from 2012, and Cap doesn't remember that. Also, Loki escaping, also Thanos and Nebula from 2004 getting killed in the future doesn't affect their past lives. and Gamora from 2004 being stuck in the future doesn't affect her timeline because you've now created alternate timelines where that never exists, but it does exist because the snap still exists and everybody was still killed for 5 years, and all of a sudden 5 years later everybody comes back. And how is that going to affect people? I mean, all the resources have been decimated by the people who still survived, and then families that have moved on and mourned. And these people who have been returned from the snap, they haven't aged. So everyone else has aged 5 years, they haven't. So they're still 5 years in the past age wise, which is odd because Spider-Man Peter Parker returns to his high school with all of his buddies who I guess passed away, who died in the snap, but that was 5 years ago. So now they were like maybe sophomores, and they still look like sophomores, but the freshmen have now graduated and gone on to college at that point. So now they're back at school, and there's all these younger kids than them, even though they might not have aged during the snap. And plus, did all of Spider-Man's friends age? Is that why they're all of Spider-Man's friends get caught in the snap? Is that why they're in Far From Home? So you have that aspect as well. So is it an alternate timeline? Are we following that? Or what is the alternate timeline we're following where Thanos never had this? What I don't know. I mean, we'll have to wait for the movie, but if you're going to stick with the fact that if you go back in the past and you change some things in the past, that it's not going to affect the present you're in, but it's going to create an alternate timeline. Well, then what timeline are you going to follow? Are you going to follow the one that you came from, or are you going to follow the one where all that happened? So like, Thanos from 2004 comes to the future and dies in the future. So there's the one timeline where Thanos from 2004 never went to the future and goes up and gets all the Infinity Stones, does a snap, kills everybody for 5 years, and then it turns back around and he gets killed and gets beheaded, and that's the end of his story there. But then the 2004 Thanos that traveled through time to the future dies in the future. So does that create a timeline where then he was never able to get the Infinity Gauntlet? So are all these people still alive? Did the snap never happen? And so have they all aged a different way too? So is that now a alternate? So that's where you're trying to explain time travel in the movie as they try to. That's how they explain it. It doesn't make sense that if you affect something in the past, it doesn't affect the future, it just creates an alternate timeline. Well, then what timeline are you following then? Are you ignoring the alternate timeline now? Are you sticking with the one timeline now where you know that Thanos came from the past, you killed him, and then the snap happened, and you're still going to follow that one all the way to the future? Or is there a possibility that you want to go to the timeline where Thanos never created the glove and your life went on and you never lost 5 years? I don't know what they're going to do. Is that how they're going to do the movies from now on? Is that how they're going to introduce Kang as the next villain? I don't know. So I didn't like their aspect of time travel in this. And time travel is a tricky thing, but I don't like that version of it. And then that also creates another problem. So now Cap needs to go back and return all the stones to the point of where they got them, so they never disappeared. Well, that's great and all that, but listen, it's easy enough to go back to 2012. But remember, now there's 2 other Captain Americas in that 2012. And you have to go and you have to put the stone back in the scepter and give it back to the evil Hydra shield agent so that never changes. You need to go back to 1970, go back into that top secret room again, put the Tesseract back again where you got it from. Or how do you even make it into a Tesseract? It's a stone now. Do you wish it as turn into a Tesseract? How do you do that? And then when you have to go to other planets, how are you going to do that? How are you going to get to the other planet to return the Power Stone from where you got it? Plus, you're going to run into the people who stole it before. And then when he has to drop off the Soul Stone, is he going to see the Red Skull and say, "Whoa, wait a second, why are you here? You're my enemy. How did you get here?" And if he returns the Soul Stone, he's going to say, "Here, Red Skull, you can have the Soul Stone back." Doesn't that mean then that that cancels out the death of Nat because you've returned the Soul Stone? Unless you return the Soul Stone, then you depart, and then Nat and them come, or Gamora come, whatever. And then it get that. But the problem is, it's the Red Skull. It's your enemy. You're going to realize it's him, and you're just going to say, "Oh, here's a Soul Stone, by the way." You're not going to try to fight him. You're not going to say, try to defeat him. It's like, what are you doing here? And then, as I said, how's he going to I mean, how's he going to travel in space? He doesn't have a ship. Is he going to, say, "Hey, I'm from the future, and I need to return these. You're successful, by the way, but I need a trip here so I can put it back here so you can steal it again." The Red Skull thing really bothers me the most about all that. And plus, how's he going to get it back in the Tesseract? How's he going to get it back in the and then how are you going to get the stuff back into Jane Foster too? So there's now it's easy. You give the one to the ancient one. Okay, boom, there you go. The time stone. Boom, you're fine. You got that taken care of. But it doesn't make any sense him returning the stones to the point of where they got them. So that's why I think as I said, I liked it. I mean, if you don't think about it too much, it is exactly what you expected. And as you'll see on my list, I'm ready to give you, it's pretty high up on my list because it is entertaining. But this is one movie I think that the more and more I think about it, the more I think it's going to start sliding back in my list a little bit. Right now, it's so fresh and it's such a big thing, and it's a good movie. It really is. But there's just so much there that makes me go, not a big fan of that. That being said, here's all 22 of the so far released MCU movies. It said Spider-Man Far From Home will be the last one in this phase as an epilogue sort of to Endgame, and then we're going to start over fresh again. My number 22 is Iron Man 3. I did not like the tonal shift with a new writer-director who really could care less about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I did not like the reveal of the Mandarin. I thought the Mandarin was such a great villain, and you could have gotten a Chinese actor to play him and have all these powerful rings that could control stuff, and not some English actor being a douchebag, and then have the real bad guy be this paralyzed dude with extremists. And the whole story is actually more about extremists and not the Mandarin, which I thought was kind of dumb. It has Miguel Ferrer in it, which is, a plus for it, and it's still Tony Stark being Tony Stark. And by the way, the young kid who helps Tony in this one is at his funeral in Endgame, so that's who that kid is. So Iron Man 3 is at the very bottom. Number 21 is Thor: The Dark World. I think this is one of those movies that the more you're going to look at it, it's going to probably move up a little bit further on my list. It's not a great movie. It has some issues, but it is an important one. Obviously, it's appearance in Endgame means it is a big deal, and it does introduce the ether and has the Collector in there as well. And you get the Warriors 3, and you get Sif some more, and you see more Loki, and you get to see more of the realms. I think what a lot of people don't like about it is that it needed to be more expansive and more like Game of Thrones epic style, and they just didn't do that. But I think the future is going to see this moving up on my list. I think as I return and watch it a few more times, I think the more and more I think about it, it's going to move up a little bit more on my list, and we'll see what happens. Number 20 is The Incredible Hulk. Again, it's one of these films that it just throws me off because it doesn't feel like it's part of the MCU, except at the very end when Tony Stark shows up and talks to Ross, who shows up later on in Captain America Civil War, and other movies as well. And it seems it's a little off-putting knowing that Edward Norton was not going to continue in the role, and that Mark Ruffalo did. I would have liked to see Mark Ruffalo from the beginning and have the same Hulk throughout. Then it might be higher up on my list. The story in itself, I mean, the Abomination with Tim Roth was an okay villain, but again, it followed the same Marvel formula where it's just a bigger, stronger version of the hero. Same with Iron Man was the same way too, and a lot of the movies were like that. but it had its moments. It has Liv Tyler is in it, and there's some comedy beats in it, and it's an entertaining movie. It just seems out of place in the MCU. That's why I have it down at number 20. Again, it's probably one of these that in the future might show up further higher up in the list, might move up a little closer, maybe not by much, but it might move up a little closer. My number 19 was Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Now, I love the Guardians of the Galaxy first film, and what got me with Guardians of the Galaxy 2 was it seemed like a retread. You were no longer really surprised by the stuff, the bickering of the crew, the pop songs that were in it, and just the way things were. It's a good cosmic movie, and Kurt Russell's the great bad guy in it, and I love him in it, but it just seemed like a retread of the original Guardians of the Galaxy, and all the stuff that I liked about Guardians of the Galaxy, they basically redid in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and it's sort of like, okay. I mean, it's still a good movie, still entertaining, still has its moments, but and see Sylvester Stallone in it was kind of weird, and some of the original Guardians of the Galaxy, it's just kind of, it was weird, and I don't think this one's going to be moving up too much on my list, though. That being said, Kurt Russell was a fantastic villain, and I loved it, and introduced Mantis, who was great as well, and we'll see about that. But right now, it's number 19. Number 18 is Iron Man 2. Again, I like all these movies, and don't let the ranking think, well, he hates these. It's just, I had to rank them some way. There's some I like more than others, but Iron Man 2 is not bad. But again, it seems like a retread, much like Guardians did. You had a great villain in Whiplash, but then you turn him just into another armored villain at the end. It also was the first appearance of the new War Machine. I can't remember the actor's name right now. Killing me. He went on to play the rest of the roles in the rest of the movies after, not in the first one, but this one. But his appearance in there is good. And Sam Rockwell's Justin Hammer's fantastic, and I like to see him come back again. But again, it was a weird, and it was good to see more of Samuel Jackson doing more as Nick Fury, and you're introduced to Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow, which was fun also to see that. But, and then Coulson makes a nice little appearance there as well. It just seemed like a retread. I mean, it was a light demon in the bottle, which is when Tony was in the comics, where Tony was battling with his alcoholism. In this case, he's being affected by the breakdown of the chemical in his heart, thing like that. So he's got to discover a new element, and this breakdown is causing him to do stupid things and be kind of an ass, more so than normal. But Justin Hammer's a good villain in this one, and I just wish Whiplash would have just been Whiplash and not Whiplash, and then, let's make him into a giant robot also. So number 17 is Avengers 2 Age of Ultron. We will be watching this again because Noah hasn't seen it yet tomorrow. I think that's what he's requested to watch it. Age of Ultron is, after the greatness that was Avengers, it was kind of a flat sequel for me. I did not like the forced Black Widow-Hulk relationship. I liked James Spader's Ultron character. I liked the introduction of again, my mind is a blank. The guy who becomes Claw from Black Panther. He makes his first appearance in there, as does Ross, who is the guy who pops up in Black Panther as well. They make their first appearance in this one. You also get the first real appearance of Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, and you discover Hawkeye's family, which is pretty good too. But all in all, it was okay. I thought they killed Quicksilver off too quickly. I wish they would have kept him around for a little bit, but I guess you need to have a death in Age of Ultron. You weren't going to kill anyone else, but introduce Scarlet Witch to everybody, and you introduce the new Avengers at the end. And the comedy beats about them each trying to lift the Mjolnir, which is another thing I should have mentioned about Endgame. You get to see Captain America yield Thor's hammer, which is great because he is worthy. But Age of Ultron, it just seemed like Joss Whedon was trying too hard to try to replicate lightning in a bottle, and it didn't quite work. Introduced Vision also. It introduced a lot of stuff, but it was a lot of things that he had to juggle, and he also had to introduce a lot of plot threads that were going to continue through Endgame. So a lot of it felt kind of forced, and there's that. Maybe watching it again tomorrow, I'll change my mind, but I don't think so. Number 16 is Spider-Man Homecoming. While it's great to see another Spider-Man movie, which is the third Spider-Man in 10 years, and I think they got a really good actor to play Spider-Man in this one. I think he's got it down pat. Homecoming itself, the best thing about Homecoming, to be honest, was Michael Keaton's Vulture and Marissa Tomei's stunningly hot and gorgeous Aunt May. And Tony's kind of shoehorned appearance in there was okay, but he really wasn't in it all that much. And he was just there to sort of be a mentor for Spider-Man, but at the same time to admonish him and then take away the armored costume. And so Spider-Man has to fight in his regular costume, which I don't like the armored Spider-Man costume. It makes him too much like Iron Man. I wish he would have just kept his regular costume and had him build the web shooters and not have all this tech that Tony gave him. But que sera, sera. It's just there's a lot going on in Spider-Man Homecoming, and it's fun to watch, but it's just not one of those that's sort of like, wow, this is the greatest movie. It's just it's there, it's okay. But Michael Keaton was fantastic as the Vulture, and you get introduced to Damage Control, which is a really good group you should be reintroduced to as well. Number 15, we have Doctor Strange. Again, I like Doctor Strange, and he's just there because, there's no bad spot on here. There's no really, really bad movie. It's just ones I don't like as much. And Doctor Strange, well, I liked it. I like the 14 movies in front of it a little bit more than I do Doctor Strange. It was a good introduction. Cumberbatch was great. The Ancient One's great. You get a really good Baron Mordo set up for the sequel. And good use for the Time Stone. Wong is fantastic. You get to see Dormammu real quick. He's not the main bad guy. You get to see the mystic side of the Marvel Universe, which we hadn't seen yet. So good on that, and continue on. Number 14 is Ant-Man. I liked Ant-Man a lot more than people thought it was. I think Paul Rudd is phenomenal in the role. I like the actress who plays the Wasp, and I like Michael Douglas as Hank Pym. And I found it was a fun movie, and I liked the fun movie, and it had a lot of action, and it wasn't like all that heavy-handed. It was just a light, breezy film, and I enjoyed that. As I enjoyed number 13, which is Ant-Man and the Wasp. I like the sequel a little bit more than I like the original one because we get to see more of Ant-Man interacting with the Wasp. You get to see a little bit more of a great villain in the Ghost. You get to see the introduction of Bill Foster, which is great as well. And it's just it was, again, a lot more breezy, fun, and I found it a lot better than the original one and enjoyed it immensely. And you get Michelle Pfeiffer on top of that as well, which is fantastic. Number 12 is Thor, the original Thor. A lot of people don't like this one either, but I liked it a lot. I liked Kenneth Branagh's version of it. I liked the introduction of Loki. I liked Thor going to Earth and being banished to Earth and then trying to survive on Earth. I liked Natalie Portman and her crew. I just thought it was another light, breezy, great film that continued the streak of Marvel movies, and it showed that you could really make a movie out of anybody, and it was great to see that, and glad it was successful. Number 11 is Captain America, the First Avenger. Again, I did not see this one in the movie theater. I guess maybe that's what it was. Maybe 2011, they released both Thor and Captain America, and I just never saw it in the movie theater, never got around to seeing it, so I saw it on video instead before the Avengers came out, and I loved it, and it was a lot more fun than people expected. Chris Evans was fantastically cast as Captain America, and you get Bucky in there as well, and you follow a good story, good Red Skull as the villain, a good 1940s period piece superhero fight battle thing was great. So I really glad it was number 11. Number 10 is the granddaddy of them all, the one that started all, Iron Man. I was watching the trailer the other day, and I was like, yeah, I really like this movie too. It was a good setup, a good introduction to the beginning of the MCU. You get Robert Downey Jr. to be your face of the franchise, and he knocked it out of the park. And it is a phenomenal movie and belongs in the top 10, which is why it's number 10. Number 9 was Captain Marvel, the most recent one before Endgame. I liked the 1990 setting. I like Goose. I thought Brie Larson did a fantastic job, and her relationship with Samuel L. Jackson was great. Plus, also her relationship with Monica Rambeau is a good one as well. And maybe not Monica, but the Rambo Monica was the daughter, that was a good one as well. But it was a fun, and it caught you totally off guard with the twist in the middle of it, which I thought was a good twist on a lot of things. And I like the 1990 setting, and I thought it was a good intro to Captain Marvel. Number 8, again, you'll see a lot of the films that I have in here, like the intro films. Well, not all of them, but some of them are. Guardians of the Galaxy, the original one, that is number 8, because it was something you'd never seen before. It was the first look at the space cosmic aspect of the Marvel Universe. You get a good perspective from James Gunn directing it. You get a good crew that doesn't like each other, but you get to see Rocket for the first time, and Drax and Groot and all these people working together for the first time. They never worked together, and they find themselves gelling into a team. The pop music score, the Thanos being a little bit more involved in things, Ronan the Accuser showing up as the main bad guy, the dance off at the end, just the comedic adventure sci-fi stuff was great. Glenn Close is in there, Annette Bening was in Captain Marvel, so you're getting all these great actors, and you get to see, fantastic. You get to see the Collector again and his collection there, so, and more involved with the stones, the Infinity Stones. So just a great intro to the Guardians of the Galaxy. Number 7 is the movie I've just finished talking about, Avengers Endgame. Again, I see this sinking maybe out of the top 10 eventually, because while it's a good ending to the series, and maybe I need to see it again, just the whole time travel, returning the stones, lack of Captain Marvel aspects to it, the death of Black Widow, all these things just seemed, the death of Black Widow not so much, but it's what's nagging me, why I could not love this movie as much as everybody else seems to. I'd like it, and as I said, maybe I need to see it again, and maybe I'll like it better or more the second time I see it. But right now, just the story itself is just giving me a hard time trying to get over that. Number 6 is the movie that preceded it, Avengers Infinity War. That one I've been discovering more and more that I'm not liking as much either. The more I watch it again, because again, the plot holes and the storylines and the actual story itself, just it doesn't make sense. And the setup to get all this stuff, just certain aspects of it, it didn't work for me. But the spectacle itself is great, and that's why it goes ahead of Endgame just a little bit, because you get to see, the battle in Wakanda, and you get to see a little bit more Spider-Man and Doctor Strange working with Iron Man and the Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff like that. So you see more of a, combining of all the movies, and that's what makes it great and why it keeps it up at number 6. Number 5 is the first ever comic book movie to be nominated for Best Picture, Black Panther. Great story, great acting, wonderful, well-deserved Oscars for costume and set design. So they deserve what they got. Chadwick Boseman is fantastic as Black Panther. His entire cast is great, and can't wait to see Black Panther 2. Number 4, we just watched last weekend also, Thor Ragnarok. No, I had never seen it before. It brought Thor back into kind of a weird area, but it was probably the funniest Thor movie, but it was also one of the best ones. Introduced a vicious Hela, and just a great, and the great Valkyrie and Loki makes a really good appearance in that as well. And the Hulk's appearance is wonderful as well. And it's a great fun film. It's one you could probably watch over. And Jeff Goldblum just steals every scene he's in also. Number 3 is Captain America Winter Soldier, which is the movie that basically changed everything in the Marvel Universe, making S.H.I.E.L.D. be a cover for Hydra, and also learning more about Bucky and stuff like that. It was and then a great performance by Robert Redford, who you weren't expecting to show up in a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, and a great beginning for reappearance of Bucky, a great introduction to Falcon, and a great Black Widow interaction with Cap, which has always one been my favorite. Is her interactions with Cap have been great, and it's fun to see those. Number 2 is Captain America Civil War, which was great to see the heroes fighting each other. The first appearance of Black Panther and Spider-Man in the same movie. Also a cunning villain in Baron Zemo, who was a really great find as well. Again, their stories has some issues, as does Winter Soldier, but I like the films too much that it overwrites that. You also get Tony Stark in there as Iron Man a little bit more, and you basically have Avengers 3 before Infinity War happened, because everyone was in there except for Thor and the Hulk, who were off doing Thor Ragnarok. So, and you get Ant-Man, who had just been in his movie, now shows up in another Marvel Cinematic Universe movie that isn't his, and you see him as an Avenger kind of. And it's great that the battle scene between the heroes is phenomenal, and just a wonderful high adrenaline kick of a movie. My number 1 is the original Avengers. Will always be my number 1, probably. The original movie, just Joss Whedon just sold it, bringing all these heroes together into one film. The storyline, making Loki the villain, and the iconic circle shot of the heroes assembling, as it were, which in Endgame, Cap finally mutters "Avengers Assemble," which is great. And that's my list. So, as I said, it's a fluid list. I don't think any movie is ever going to supplant the Avengers as my number 1, but who knows? In the future, we'll see. So there's that. Okay, so now I got 15 minutes to go through a whole page here. Speaking of Marvel, Hulu appears to be the new Netflix. They have reportedly signed on to do a Ghost Rider series and a Hellstorm series for Marvel on Hulu. They've already got all those cartoons coming on Hulu eventually, so now they're doing live action ones, and there's a possibility that maybe the Netflix films will go to Hulu now, and we'll see what happens. Italian men have been named the most handsome, the study says. I'm not Italian, I'm German, so I don't really go for that. A criminal evades police using video game logic. So he's being chased by police he's on a motorcycle. He's being chased by police. So he finds a parked car. He puts his motorcycle behind the car, so the police who are following him in a police car will not see it behind a car, because they're not going to look down the sidewalk because they're pursuing him in a police car. And then he hides in front of the car, so when they turn down here, they think he's sped on down the road. They don't see him hiding behind the car, and then as they get closer, you see him crawl around the other side. So as they pass by, they don't see anything, and then he just rides away. So that's clever on his part, and good on that. Oh, that's what I was going to do. That's the one. The 2 stories I never thought I would tell about things I never thought I'd talk about: potholes. The first one's the good one. A 12-year-old, and the thing, truth of the matter, this shouldn't have to be done. The city or state or whatever should go out of their way to fix potholes, because potholes can screw up your cars if you're not careful. They can knock out your traction, your transmission. They can pop tires. They can ruin your car in general. And it's just people they don't care. But this 12-year-old does. He goes out and he fixes potholes using dirt from, I guess, his house. He gets piles of dirt and wheelbarrows it to where the potholes are, and he fills the potholes up with dirt and then flattens it out so that when the cars come, it's going to sort of, it's going to sink a little bit, but it's going to not be a boom type of thing. It's going to be more of the dirt is dense enough that it'll keep the car running. So the kid is getting, a lot of press, and a lot of local people are saying that he's a great person, but you need to get out there. You need to fix that yourself. You shouldn't have a 12-year-old kid have to fix the potholes for you. You should do it yourself. He's not getting paid for it either. You got to pay this kid to do it. So this is actually, I love that the kid went out of his way to fix the potholes, but this is the way you get potholes fixed. You vandalize the pothole by drawing penises around the potholes. And that's what this one person does. He vandalizes potholes by spray painting penises around the potholes. So when people see that, like, oh God, we got to fix this because we can't have people see this penis because people are going to get offended by it. So they have to fix it because they need to get that penis drawing out of people's view. So I thought that was kind of a clever, and I think that's kind of funny. So good on both of you for doing that. The Indian Army tweeted a picture of what they claim to be Yeti footprints. Now, this is the Indian Army. India's army tweeted a picture of footprints that they said belonged to a Yeti. Just let that sink in. A police department posted pictures of footprints saying that it was a Yeti. You know, most police departments, if you announce that Bigfoot was in your backyard, they left you like, yeah, whatever, dude, whatever. These people, they said, no, they're real, and here's the proof of it. Speaking of that, Mount Everest is currently, there's a group at Mount Everest who are tackling the 60,000 pounds of trash problem. These people have to climb Mount Everest to pick up trash. You know, most people just climb Mount Everest just to say that they did it. These people are climbing it to clean it up so that it doesn't ruin the environment. So, I mean, if you're doing that, you may as well take the dead bodies that are up there then too, instead of just leaving them out there, unless you're trying to make a point, say, hey, this person died trying to climb up here. You need to watch out. So we'll see. Speaking of penises, there's a penis park in South Korea, statues of penises that you can ride and stuff like that. I don't know why, but there you go. A high school running team takes shelter dogs on their morning run with them. So they go to the shelter, they get a bunch of shelter dogs, and then when they go for the run, they take the dogs on the run with them so the dogs can get some exercise. And then when they're done they're running, they take the dogs back to the shelter. They've gone out, they've gotten some exposure to other people, they've gotten a chance to run. It's kind of nice. Strawberry shortcake crunch from Captain Crunch People is a new crunch flavor. I guess that's going to be okay. It's an interesting taste for it. Wendy's Frosty is now topped with chocolate chunk, chocolate balls, and Ghirardelli sauce. So you are into getting some Frosty here. That's a good one to get. 7-Eleven is delivering beer now, craft beer now. Not mine because we're not allowed to sell beer at ours. But if you're in any other state, hey, you can order craft beer, they'll deliver it for you. 7-Up, that drink that you drink now, no caffeine, clear soda, up until 1948 had lithium in it. Much like how Coke used to have cocaine in it, 7-Up used to have lithium in it in 1948. So if they ever come up with a 7-Up 1947, just beware, it might be lithium in it. Man wins cell phone and car was actually a hash brown case. So he's on his phone. He gets pulled over by the police for being on his phone and gets charged with a talking on your phone. You're not supposed to talk on your phone while you're driving. He claims though that he was actually eating, I guess you can eat like that, eating a McDonald's hash brown. So he decided he's going to take the policeman to court, saying it was actually hash brown. I wasn't on my phone. I'm not going to pay this. And he won his case. The judge is like, there's no proof that it wasn't. So you win. So where is that story? Oh, yeah, there it is. Check. There's this, I didn't quite read what it does, but this summer there's a new thing called the mosquito shield. It is a device you put out here and you press it and it makes over a 15-foot radius a shield around you that mosquitoes cannot enter. I don't know if it's a spray or if it's impulses or something like that allows them not to come in, but there's that. If you have CPAP, which you have trouble with where you snore or whatever, and sometimes you just need to put a mask over your face, it'll help you breathe better. Well, now there's an alien face hugger one, so it looks like you have an alien face hugger on your face that's helping you breathe while you sleep. So freak out your wife or your partner wearing that if you want. Willow, the TV show, Willow, the movie that starred Warwick Davis and Val Kilmer, that was supposedly Ron Howard and Steven Spielberg and George Lucas's attempt to do Lord of the Rings because they didn't get the rights to it. So they created their own version similar to Lord of the Rings, but not quite. It's going to be getting its own TV show on Disney Plus with, I guess, at least Warwick Davis reprising his role. So we'll see if anybody else does as well. But that's pretty good for that. Natty Boh, which is a local beer here in Baltimore, is creating day beer, which is probably, it's going to be trashy, shitty beer, which you can just drink while you're sitting on your porch, hanging out during the summer. Pickle ice cream, pickle soft serve is now a thing. I don't like pickles, and pickle ice cream just sounds disgusting. As does vegan lasagna, which is layers of lettuce and tomatoes, but done in a lasagna style. That's a new thing also out there as well. I guess you can add some other veggies if you want to make a really interesting veggie lasagna, but this person actually made a layered lasagna with lettuce and tomatoes and some other stuff, so it was kind of interesting. There's a mutant three-eyed snake has been spotted, so mutants are all over the place, and this is a three-eyed snake, and that's just kind of creepy. Champagne ice cubes are a new thing, I guess. You put them in a glass or something, and eventually they melt in their champagne. Or you put them in your champagne and just have more champagne, I guess. I don't know. Some bad news for Winnie the Pooh people. First up, a fire blows through Ashton Forest, which is where Poe's 100-acre wood was the, where Milne was, what's the word I'm looking for? Was his inspiration. And the voice of Winnie the Pooh, Jim Cummings, has been accused of rape and animal abuse, which is just something you don't expect to see from someone who does the voice of Winnie the Pooh, but here we are. Teacher threatens to spoil Endgame to unruly students. For those students who haven't seen it and they're unruly, this teacher has threatened to spoil it for them before the embargo is up on Monday. So good on you, teacher. Messy beds are apparently a thing now, where you don't need to make your bed anymore. Messy beds are the cool thing to do now. It's like, oh, cool, I don't have to make my bed anymore. I still do because I like how it looks. Cobra Kai, the YouTube show about the sequel to Karate Kid, but with Danny and Zuko, I guess is his name, William Zabka and Ralph Macchio's characters, Johnny and Ralph Macchio's character, who I just said, but I can't remember, Daniel. They're grown-up selves. The first season was really, really good. The second season is going to be dropping soon on YouTube. They've already optioned it for a third season, so it's doing successful for them. So good on that for Cobra Kai. I'm going to wait to see maybe if it comes out on DVD or something. Maybe I'll pop it in there. Model dies after collapsing on the catwalk. So model goes to work, does their job, and then collapses on the catwalk and dies. That's a shame that has happened. I guess that's a raven. There is a talking raven stuns woman. So a woman's sitting at a bench, and this raven comes up to her and goes, "You all right, love?" So someone actually taught this raven how to talk, which is kind of cool. There was once a millipede that was larger than a human, and I don't even want to see that, even in my dreams. Oh yeah, the London Marathon was recently, and people sometimes dress when they run their marathons. Well, one guy was dressed as Big Ben, and as he was getting close to the final, he was entering the end, the finish line, and he'd been running 26.2 miles. He's tired, and he's been wearing this huge Big Ben costume that goes probably 8 feet up in the air. He hits the low-hanging finish line and gets stuck before he can finish. So he's got to step back, and then he's able to go through. But still, it's kind of crazy that you ran all this way just to get stuck in your costume, which is a clever costume, but still kind of weird. Speaking of birds, a little girl has trained her pet bird to attack anyone she yells at. So, or she screams at. So, if someone, and it's kind of good if you're walking with your bird and someone's trying to kidnap you, or whatever, and you scream at them, the bird will go and try to gouge their eyes out. Or, if you're mad at your mom or dad and you scream at them, the bird's going to attack your mom and dad. So, you got to watch out. But the fact that she was able to teach her bird to do that is crazy. Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds are expecting child number 3. Good for them. Congratulations. Scott Snyder, a writer for Batman and the Justice League now, he and his wife had their first son today, actually. So congratulations to him. The Sonic the Hedgehog movie, live action one with Jim Carrey, released a trailer not too long ago. It was this week, I think. And the backlash on how Sonic looks, he looks nothing like the character in the video games. He looks like this human looking weird creature that they hate. The hatred for it came out so much so that the creators of it have gone back to the drawing board, are going to redraw Sonic to look more like him in the movie, in the video games, before the release of the movie, which I guess is going to be later this year. So I guess they have time to do it, to change it, and maybe then it'll be more like the Sonic we're used to. Because there were actually people who were doing it on their own. They took the trailer and every piece that had the picture of the horrible-looking Sonic, they drew their own computer-generated version of the real Sonic, and it looked fine. So I guess they're going to do something similar like that. Ravens and wolves share a symbiotic relationship. When wolves are feeding, the ravens take watch to make sure no other animals approach them and warn the wolf if something's coming, or maybe even attacks other animals while the wolf is eating. And in return, the wolf will leave food for the raven to eat after he's done eating. And then the two go off and they protect each other and they play and they frolic and they have each other's backs. I think that's my last story here. Yep. So that's that. And then stuff that came out this week. The Mummy came out 20 years ago this week, which was a great movie. I'm going to show my daughter. I haven't seen that in a while. Superman the movie came out this week in 1977. Iron Man, the original MCU movie, number 10 on my list, came out in 2008, 11 years ago. And the Battle of Hogwarts took place 21 years ago. So that's in the book, obviously, and in the movie as well. So there's that. And I think that's everything. All we need to do is check Day. A lot of stuff today. A lot of interesting stuff today. And then we'll be gone. So we're going a little bit over 2 hours, but that's okay. All right. So what do we got here? We got... Clear that. Boom. Do check Day. Boom. Looks like they did an update on Twitter because it looks like clearer. All right, so May 4th. Where are you? Okay, sorry, I'm just looking at some other stuff here. Okay. May 4th is Anti-Bullying Day, is Beer Pong Day, Bird Day, Bladder Cancer Awareness Day, Childhood Stroke Awareness Day. Free Comic Book Day was today, May 4th. Herb Day was May 4th also. International Drone Day, International Firefighters Day was today. International Respect for Chickens Day was May 4th. International Respect for Chickens Day. May 4th is Join Hands Day. It's the Kentucky Derby. We talked about that earlier. National Auctioneers Day. National Candied Orange Peel Day, National Home Brew Day, National Kids Fitness Day is today, May 4th. National Orange Juice Day is May 4th. National Scrapbooking Day is May 4th. National Weather Observers Day, Petite and Proud Day, Pilates Day, Renewal Day. Star Wars Day is May 4th. May the 4th be with you. May 4th is World Give Day. That's it. May 3rd was Garden Meditation Day, International Space Day, International Tuba Day, National Chocolate Custard Day, National Lumpy Rug Day, National Raspberry Popover Day, National Sand Architect Day. May 3rd is National Specialty Abled Pets Day, National Textiles Day, National Two Different Colored Shoes Day. No Pants Day was yesterday, Paranormal Day, Public Radio Day, School Lunch Hero Day, Sunday. Sunday is in the sun. Wordsmith Day, WordPress Freedom Day. May 2nd was Baby Day, Brothers and Sisters Day, International Scurvy Awareness Day, National Day of Prayer, National Day of Reason, National Fire Day, National Life Insurance Day, National Play Your Ukulele Day was May 2nd, National Truffle Day, Take a Baby to Lunch Day was May 2nd, Word Password Day, World Tuna Day as well. And then tomorrow, May 5th, was, of course, Cinco de Mayo. It's also Cartoonist Day, Cinco de Mayo, International Bereaved Mothers Day, International Midwives Day, International Permaculture Day, Lemonade Day. Lemonade Day is May 5th. May Day for Mutts is May 5th. Motorcycle Mass and Blessing of the Bikes Day, really, is May 5th. Museum Lovers Day is May 5th. National Hoagie Day is May 5th. National Infertility Survival Day is May 5th. National Silence the Shame Day, Oyster Day, Revenge of the 5th, haha. Totally Chipotle Day, World Laughter Day. So that is it for that. So all right, so that is it for today. And that's it. So thanks for watching. Next week will be Mother's Day. What else is it's Detective Pikachu comes out, so we'll see what this week brings. Hopefully I'll be even closer to being done on my project. In 2 weeks I'll be home alone from Friday night through Sunday morning, so I'll be having all kinds of fun stuff happening then. It's also Community Day coming up that Sunday, so that'll be fun. So got some good stuff coming up, so continue going. Spring is almost over. Summer is right around the corner. Summer movies have now started coming out, so check it out. I want to try to see if I can find Entertainment Weekly's summer movie list, try to go through it, maybe do a summer movie review. Maybe I'll make that my priority for this week, so we'll see. For my show next week, I'll talk about summer movies as well. So thanks for watching, and have a good Cinco de Mayo. Don't drink too much. Eat some guacamole. Listen to Taco Grande, which is a great song by Weird Al Yankovic about Mexican food. And enjoy your day. And may the 4th be with you. May the 4th be with you. What a world. What a world.